Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan, and this will be longer than 10 minutes, I can assure you, because I've got a crackpot with me, right? You've not just got me for company today, we've got my pal Sandy. So, Sandy, how are you, mate?
I'm fine, Craig, thank you for having me on your podcast. I've been watching with great interest, I've been loving your work, particularly regarding our old friend Humza Yousaf.
It's been fun over the last couple of days, hasn't it?
It certainly has. It's been a bit, well, it's not been an eye-opener, but it's been good to see that Humza and his ineptitude has now been taken to task, and not by anybody else's mouth, but by his own words under the Freedom of Information Act. I'd like to see how Humza, wrongly justifying racism and Islamophobia and far right wing for words that he's actually says. So it's going to be an interesting next week or so, I believe.
No, I think you're right. When the story came out yesterday morning, I didn't think it was going to come out. I thought it was going to be Monday, to be honest with you. And I texted the journalist late on, and she's replied to me with a screenshot of the front page. She went, "It's in the Morris paper, it's in the front page." And I went, "All right, can I share that photograph of the front page?" She went, "Well, why? Because it's on Twitter." Went on Twitter, and within maybe half an hour, the story then hit online. So it was late on Friday night. So Saturday, by the time everybody got up and they were reading the article that Camilla had written, it was just a mad response. And the last thing I was expecting was any response for Humza until probably Monday, by the time his spads and his PR people and all that got to tow it. But for him to take to Twitter at about 9:30 on a Monday morning was just mad and random. Did you see it?
I didn't see it. Obviously, I've been following your podcast and that, and obviously I'm on the group, the WhatsApp group and that. It's quite interesting with Humza. He doesn't like criticism at all, does he? Doesn't he take too good to criticism? And I found it usual playing the race card and playing things. He's got to understand he's condemned by his own actions and words here. You can dress it up as anything. I have no problem with Humza as a person, as a human being, religion, colour, whatever, but he's absolutely garbage at his job. He was a garbage Justice Secretary. He was an even worse Health Secretary, and he was shooed into that. Or I thought was a better candidate, which was Kate Forbes. Now, when Humza wants to talk about religion, well, they're not bringing religion into Katie Forbes's campaign, and that basically went against her. So it's okay to have religious beliefs in certain beliefs, but not in other beliefs. And I mean, I think some of the stuff Humza's coming out with kind of quite comical just now. You've obviously rattled his cage.
Aye, well, I thought, and I've commented on it in a couple of videos since, the fact that he went in that tirade with 7 or 8 tweets on the one thread, not once did he say, "I never done that." He never spoke about the allegation. He actually just went against advice, went against a ministerial decision, and changed the funding for one charity or another. He never once tried to explain it. He never denied it. He just went on about, well, everybody else has gave UNRWA money, and I've suffered for Islamophobia all my life, and this is a far right, what do you call it, conspiracy. You're like, no, it's not. Now, you might think the Telegraph's a right-wing paper, but again, let's play the ball and know the defender here. If you think what they've said is wrong, then talk about what it's wrong. Nobody is. The amount of comments I'm seeing about Telegraph Tory rag, and what? Let's say it was the most Tory rag in the world. Does that mean putting that information out means the information's wrong? And the amount of people playing the man and know the ball over the last couple of days has been absolutely frightening. But what do you think happens next?
Well, I think Humza's going to have a lot of friends come to his rescue. If you believe the QCs, the leftists, the right-on people that pervade the SNP, hate anything unionist, hate anything that goes against the grain of what they're trying to perpetrate. My opinion on the whole thing is, I wish they would. I agree what's happening in Gaza. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy what happened to the Israelis, and I don't know what MD ever thought was going to happen after that. Whether you like it or no, Israel's a sovereign country over there, And whether you like their actions or not, they've got every right to defend themselves. But yeah, it has been going a wee bit too far, in my opinion. I'm not a great fan of Israelis or anything really, but I mean, they're dealing with a terrorist organisation. You can call Hamas whatever you like. Hamas control everything in the Gaza Strip, whether it's hospitals, whether it's anything that moves, it's Hamas. So see, unfortunately, that there's civilians and children that are getting killed. I think you said a couple of weeks ago that all war is bad, and war is bad. It's a horrible thing, right? But let's see. There's two sides to every war. There's not just one side. There's always two sides. And with Humza, it's his ineptitude that needs called out. It's a whole crooked SNP, right? We're going with his predecessor, whatever, right? Seems to be concentrating in Gaza. They ought to concentrate in the potholes, concentrate in the schooling, and concentrate in our NHS, because from what I can see, my experiences and my family's experiences, it's an absolute shambles up here. It's a shambles, and it's time for change.
Aye. It seems that it's another thing that distracts from what a government's meant to do, and that is take money in and spend it on the people and provide us with decent standards of life and everything. Out in any barometer you want to test them by, they sort of fail. And now it seems that they've got two go-to default positions. Tell us that Westminster's bad, or talk about Gaza. Nobody wants to talk about health. Nobody wants to talk about drug deaths. Nobody wants to talk about potholes. Nobody wants to talk about education. Nobody wants to talk about all these budgets. There's a thing that's coming out today, the laptops. Remember, for years we're told everybody's got, well, they've binned that. They've not told anybody, but they've just binned it. So if we talk about Westminster and we talk about Brexit and we talk about Gaza, then they're non-accountable. And I think they've been non-accountable for 17 years. And a one-trick pony party is, I think somebody was talking about it the other day. Them and the Greens, they are not political parties, they're activists. That's it. That's what they were formed to do. They weren't formed to be political parties, they were formed to agitate and be activists. And now they've got into a bit of power. Is it any surprise they don't know how to deal with it? Because they're shocking at it.
My biggest worry, I mean, I'm in the last third of my life here, and I vote on what's good for my kids. No, I come from a working class background. I haven't been able to vote Labour for years because I didn't think Labour represented me. I'm not naturally a Tory voter, but out of the rest I would vote Tory, because that's about the only in Scotland just now anyway. Although it may be changed now with Labour coming up with Westminster elections and that. They may become a credible force again. But the people in the SNP, I mean, you cannot give them criticism, you can't take them to task, or they want to throw things like isms or us at people. And that's even the rain people. It's been a one-party state up here, which isn't healthy for anybody. And they've got away with blue murder. They've had sex scandals in Westminster, they've had sex scandals up here, brushed under the carpet. But they were obsessed with independence. Now it seems to be right now they're obsessed with Gaza, because it seems to be a good smokescreen away from what a poor job they're doing with the country and have done for a number of years now.
But even at that, they don't know what they're going to do with independence. And I'll tell you why, right? Was it 2 years ago when they get knocked out the co-op that they couldn't hold an election with a referendum without Westminster? And Nicola took to the streets and went, we're going to have a de facto referendum. Now, her idea of a de facto referendum was 50% plus one vote. That'll give us a mandate. Now, I'm going at it saying, you actually couldn't argue against that. If you go, I don't think it's proper to use an election for anything other than electing MPs for Westminster. But if you argue that 50% plus one vote for nationalist parties, you kind of got to give them something that, there's a lot of people. But then you look at the results from the elections, because it was the first thing I'd done, and I thought they've never got near 50% of the vote, even in their best ever Westminster elections. And I thought, well, crack on, let's have a de facto referendum then, because you'll lose it miserably. Then, their last conference, Humza gets up and suddenly, that's not what we need for a mandate. What we need is a majority of seats. Now, I think there's only going to be, they changed it, is it just under 60 seats now in Scotland for Westminster? So they need 30 seats, which I think they might struggle with. But even for by that, you could get 30 seats in the 30 Scottish seats in Westminster with 30% of the vote. So they just move the goalposts again. And then you talk to them about, defence, you talk to them about currency, central banks, all these important things that you need to actually operate as a country. They don't have the answers.
I mean, my opinion is, what we're going to do for defence, see if we go independent, what's to stop the Russians coming down through into fast lane?
Well, they told us that NATO's they're going to join NATO, right? But see, if you're NATO and you don't have a nuclear system, you must agree to take, whether it's planes or submarines or boats, into your country from other NATO countries that have nuclear. That's part of being a member. Well, they've said the first thing we're going to do is apply for NATO membership, but we're getting the submarines out of Faslane. Like, well, that doesn't fit with NATO membership criteria. So how are you going to defend yourself?
I'd like to know about currency, central bank situation, because they say about the EU, you need a central banking system, I believe, to be membership of the EU.
And if you want in as well, you get 2 years to take on the euro, which they say they don't want. But the thing about the EU is, Sandy, the EU isn't you put in your application, and if the majority of members want you in, you get in. You need every member to vote for you. One veto, you're out. Now, why would Spain allow anybody to break away from a country when they've got the problems in Catalonia and the Basque, to a lesser degree, wanting independence? Why would they go, that sounds like a good idea, we'll just let countries become independent and come straight into the EU? You're never going to allow it. And then, I didn't even know this. Do you know there's a Flemish National Party?
In Belgium or Holland?
Or could be part of either, right? That want a Flemish independent state. So why would the Benelux countries go, that's a great idea, we'll let people be separate and get straight into the EU? But they live in cuckoo land. It's a cult. And some people get after nut when I say that, but
it is a cult, let's not kid ourselves. It is a cult, there's no arguing with these people. I remember back in the referendum, we done quite a lot of stuff. And I remember looking back at it, and I'm a unionist. I'm a unionist.
that's never a no.
But well, I'm a unionist with that. But I remember back in the day then, I listened to the two campaigns, and I thought the two campaigns were terrible. It was basically, one was full of false promises with the SNP, and the other one with the unionists was, what will happen? See, it was a fair campaign with the unionist vote, but I voted simply because I did not believe that it would have been good for my children. End of it. I wasn't convinced. with the calibre of politician. I'm even less so now with the calibre of politician. But, I mean, the country's gone. Ask anybody, doctors waiting list for... And all you hear is it's either Westminster's fault. Everything's all Westminster's fault. I mean, I'm a great... See, people want independence, right? I'm a wee bit tongue-in-cheek here, right? I'm all for people... If they really want independence that bad, right? There's some stunning uninhabited islands in the west coast of Scotland. Absolutely stunning, right? So see, with 50%, they're quite welcome to go there and start a community. They can have the groat as their currency. They could have iron brew ginger bottles. Or they could even have turnips, camel wafers, and they can actually call it the People's Republic of Gotland. I've no problem, right? And let the grown-up people, I like the phrase you use about grown-up pants, right? Big boy pants, right? Big boy pants, right? Very public school boy. If they want it that much, then go, right? Go there and let the rest of the people here get on with fixing the country, because this country is broken, right? This country's broken. This could be a crank wee country. But we need to remain part of the union. I'm not saying the union's perfect or ideal, it's no, right? But it's the best available option.
Well, see, when it was a referendum, if you want people to change for a status quo, you've got to really sell them an idea. But the idea was shit. Usually, there's so many holes in your... And now, the one that I love was, and the amount of people that totally deny it now was, no, we weren't building it on oil back in 2014. You're like, what? It was the only thing you spoke about, right? Many of them, and you're like, no, we were never, it was never about oil, was it? No, it was liquid oil. So if you want, and back then, I don't think they would have had to have gave me some right good evidence for me to have voted yes, right? Let's be honest. But even somebody more middle than me, if you look at unionists and nationalists, somebody in the middle that needed convincing, they just didn't do a good enough job. Now, what I thought they would have done after that was said, right, okay, 2014, we've lost the referendum. Alex went away, Nicola came in, and I thought, see if they run the country right for about 5 to 10 years, they could actually say, well, look at what we've done with this book of rules. Imagine what we could do with our own book of rules. But they didn't. They've done the complete opposite. And I don't know if it was by mistake that we've ended up so shite after 10 years, or if it's actually by design, and use that as a, well, look how terrible we are. Because I don't think you could make the country that much worse if you actually tried.
I think people going about their business, they're seeing cuts, they're seeing... I mean, the biggest thing that I notice going about my daily business is the potholes in the road. I mean, you want to try to fix things in Gaza and you want to blame Westminster. You know what? Go on, bloody fix the potholes alone.
Did you pick a thing up about the lampposts? Right. No. I didn't know this was a thing, right? I've never seen them, right? People saying, I've seen loads of them about. See, if I was the Lord Provost of Glasgow and I'm living in this house, I get 2 lampposts put outside the door. It's a thing that they've done for 100 years, and I quite like traditions and all that, right? But I don't know why it suddenly became a story. I think I've ended up in the council house in Bellison or something. I don't know, right? There's a photo of him in a normal house. The photo, like, what is that? So there's a bit of discussion about it. And you've got all the, like, I try to remember her name, Crackpot Mary, whatever her name is.
Mary Hunter.
Aye. Oh, these are great, these are wonderful, and it's all about tradition. How long has the tradition been in, Mary? Oh, it's over 100 years. Aye, the union's been about for 300 years. We see that tradition, we have to stop it. And the other thing is, see if this was not an SNP controlled council, see if this was a Tory council spending 17 grand on lampposts for a province house, what do you think we'd be hearing about it? Do you know what I mean? And then the other crackpot, he's away, I mean, they cancelled it when the story got out. Some councillor for Glasgow was going to New York, I think it was, somewhere in America, definitely, for a jolly for 7 grand. Well, they've kind of pulled the plug on that now. But you go, see if that was a Tory? And that's the most annoying thing for me. They want everybody to be judged by a different set of rules than them. Mm-hmm. You can't judge us, but no, look at Tory, I mean, that's terrible, that Tory. And what? Look at your thing.
I would see, come back to Humza. This is a guy when he was Justice Secretary, was approached by families about a certain thing, and the families were getting nothing off him, right? And it's a live case, so I'll not say too much about it, but we know what we're talking about here, right?
I don't think what you're wanting to talk about is an issue, because it's already in the public domain and it's got nothing to do with the case. But when he was a Justice Secretary, he hunted families and victims of the Celtic Boys Club case. Mm-hmm. Just refused to meet them. Mm-hmm. Tell them to go and speak to the Sports Minister. Mm-hmm. You're like, but it's criminal.
No, it's your remit.
Aye.
I mean, the Health Secretary as well, absolute disaster.
What, the new one?
No, Humza when he was Health Secretary.
He wasn't very good at any job. He must be the only guy in the world that fails upwards.
Oh, yeah, that it could be a football manager. He seems to get promoted for failure. Seems to do quite well with a failure.
I suppose he could do that as well. But he was, even when he was an advisor to Alex, he was rotten at that. Should he get 400 grand off government when he was a spad for Alex Salmond to run Islamafest in Glasgow? He got 400 grand to start a business. She then became his first wife. A cousin, 2 cousins or something like that. There's a gang of 4 or 5 of them. They started this entity. They drew funds, 400 grand. They actually got the money before the thing was constituted, the actual body, which I don't know how you figured that out. I've done a video on it. The Islamafest never happened. Now, if you can't run an Islamafest in Glasgow and organise one of them in the space of 24 months, they kind of no hope for you.
Well, what happened to the 400 grand with them?
Well, they'd spent 200 of it, apparently, on setting up fees. So see, but he gave 200 grand it back. All right. But this entity spent 200 grand and they couldn't actually organise an Islamist in Glasgow. You and I could have ran a fucking Islamist in Glasgow and I'm not a Muslim, right? I'm gone there. That's how good, that was before he even came into government. That was before he was working for the government, but that's before he became a politician. He failed at that. Couldn't he run? Couldn't he run a Manoj material? That is how crazy that is.
I find that strange because he's one of the biggest critics, I believe, of Orange Parades, which is a faith culture thing. You can call it what you want, but it's a proclamation of faith, and it's important to a lot of people in this country. Yeah, that's big bad. But why then?
Because it's seen as a unionist thing. We know that.
Do you know what's worrying me as well now with the SNP, and particularly Humza, like his predecessor Nicola during COVID? He doesn't want to listen to anybody's advice. It's like autocratic. It's like all days are pleasing to hell with the rest of you.
I've not shown you them. You've obviously seen them in the videos, but I'll give you a copy of them away, the actual FOI results that I get back. And you look through it and you think, you're actually a dictator. I'm meeting them, so we'll just give them 250 grand and that'll be that, and we'll worry about the consequences later. You're like, but all the advice and all the other emails tells you not to do that, to do this. He actually said to them, I want to give money to Gaza for water. And they looked at 3 proposals, and one of them was UNICEF on a water campaign, funnily enough. And it was all agreed that that's where it was to go, because that's where all the advice was. Well, the First Minister wants to give more money to Gaza, and he wants it because of a water issue. Well, UNICEF had the perfect thing. So that's where all the advice was, and that's where the decision was, to go for UNICEF. And he's like, nah, I'm meeting them. You're like, but they don't care. And Sandy, I'm not going to cover it too much in this video because I'm speaking to Camilla again. I spoke to her this afternoon. She looks as if she's going to take me up my offer of a part 2, which is more information about this thing, where I believe I've got enough information. I know I have. It's there in black and white to show where the monies came from was incorrect. You shouldn't be able to use that fund, and it looks as if there might be, and again, I can't say for definite, so I'm going to use the word might be, a cover-up and try to hide where the money came from. All because Humza wanted to give more money to Gaza. It's just like, what did I call him in one of the videos? Kim Young Humza or something like that, Kim Young Yousaf? Because that's what he's like, Kim Young. It's like, and to be fair, Nicola was like that as well.
I was just about to come in and say that. I think that's what we're finding out now a lot about Nicola and our conduct during COVID and that. It was Nicola's way or no way. Nicola decided what she wanted to say, when she wanted to say it, and to hell with advisors, cabinet, or whatever.
Something we spoke about on the phone earlier without dropping names in. But Peter's been living in the marital home. Nicola's no. But she did show up 2 nights ago to charge her car.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to get into any difficulties legal, but I think it's common knowledge what the situation is there, which I find quite surprising given some of the opposition leaders in Scotland all the years.
Aye, at one time we had 3 female opposition, and Nicola was the only one that was in a heterosexual relationship. The other 2 were, and they did a problem with it.
I don't know why people just can't be honest, because if you can't be honest with your private life, I mean, I get a lot of stick for what I've done in life. See, most of my life's an open book. I don't hide for what I'm or who I'm and I have people judging me that don't know me. That's fine. See my 3 kids, my friends and family, my 4 kids, should I say, my friends and family, not who really know me. That's all that matters to me, right?
Some wahoo and twat.
I mean, people want to judge you, but I've got a brain, I've got my own opinion. I'm not saying I'm perfect, because nobody's perfect, right? I'm far from perfect, but know what? See, when I'm imperfect, I put my hands up and I'll take my medicine. I'll not deny it. I'll not try to hide behind scurry, whatever. Now, if I go somewhere and I'm telling a lie, right, just me, I'd be judging that. These people are running the country now. I'm not going to say, oh, shock horror, politicians lie, right? They all lie, right? No, they're taught to lie. It's a thing with a job, they've got to lie. But my God, when you're caught lying, right, and you're caught lying through your own words, you know what? Have a wee bit of decency and put your hands up, huh? Right? because other people could go to jail for what you're doing.
That's the mad thing, and this came up when I was dealing with Camilla from the Telegraph. She's like, what is it you do, Craig, and why did you start it? The reason I got political was because of one crackpot and £11,000 worth of mobile phone bills. Now, that was my driver to do these videos. Mm-hmm. But if you see, when you think about it in the whole scheme of things, there's been 100 things worse than that. But see, because when that came out, it was a lies run about it, and they tried to cover up. And Humza going, no, we can't sack him. How no? There's a process in place. Mm-hmm. So what we were to believe is that, just the mere mortals in the land. That man, if he's done something right or wrong, we can't do anything about it until the process is finished. Because that's what Humza said, right? Well, how come he stepped down a week before that finished? He didn't wait for the process to finish, because they were back to rights. He knew fine well he was going to get, and I've not even seen actually what the results it was, but he didn't get the due process, so he got another 2 months of getting paid as a minister, and then, but we were ought to wait. Humza told us there's an investigation into that, so we need to give it due process, so we can't have him to step down. Step down.
No, see, was a worrying thing I found with SNP in general was the time they took the British government to court about they wanted a second referendum or something. Now, they were advised against that. They were going to lose that. I think that was over £1 million. There was also the debacle with the kind of trans thing. Yep. And Humza was told again, now I know Humza was told, you're going to lose this. That was millions of pounds, right? There's women that can't walk through parks in Scotland because they say there's no money. There's no money to light these parks to make it safer for kids, women and that at night. Can throw, especially Glasgow or Deer Green Place, yet they can throw money at legal things that they're told they're not going to win. It's like chasing votes at every opportunity, lowering the school age, lowering the voting age, right? All the stuff running about trans, which I actually think is anti-women. I actually believe a lot of this is anti-women, and I actually think it does the actual gay and lesbian situation no good at all, because that means, what can I wake up one morning and go like that? I've always wanted to be a woman. Right, I'm going to start wearing lipstick, and I've got a lot of sympathy.
What do you mean start wearing lipstick? You stopped?
No, I've got a lot of sympathy for people that are true trans, right? But there's got to be a process with that. But that doesn't mean I can automatically just start dressing up and demand to get into a women's toilet. You know what I mean? I mean, I've got a daughter. I've got female relatives. And that. What planet do you think that's acceptable on? And it came up in the blue. Well, we thought that's what blew Nicola out the water. We obviously knew what was going on in the background with Nicola. And it's just... See if they would do their job. See, you made a comment during this thing. See if Alec and Nicola, who were... I mean, Humza's a political pygmy to these two. At least they two were very good politicians. You can say what you want about Salmon and all, where he's alleged, whatever, right? He was found not guilty, whether people say there's no smoke without fire, right? I've had that labelled at me all my life as well. It goes with the territory. But they were actually pretty sharp politicians. They were really good. It's just a pity there's no more kind of people with that skill set. But in the powers went to their head, innit? The power went to, I think it went to me, Alex said, it certainly went to Nicholas said, and it's already went to Humza's head before he even got the top job. Humza seems to think that because he's Pakistani maybe, and he's a minority, that he can throw mud at everybody, and that's allowed to stick, but you can't throw mud at Humza.
I know. Remember that, I can't remember the outcome of it, but it ended a bit weird. Remember he was taking... He sued the nursery for not letting the rain in, and then it came to light that it was possibly journalists and stuff making phone calls on their behalf and trying to gerrymander the situation. Then all of a sudden it just dropped.
If I remember right, was it either he named the wrong nursery or he had friends who had kids who were minorities who were actually granted? It was simply just, it was a case of there wasn't enough room, but Humza being Humza wanted to jump in 2 feet first, 2 chips in his shoulder, and say, oh, it's no fair, it's I'm being discriminated against. Do you know what, Mr. Yousaf? You catch yourself out with your own mouth. Your own move will be your own vanity. And I don't want people like you run the country. I want a better future for my kids and my wains. And this country's slipping. And it's not because Humza's a minority or whatever. Nothing to do with that. He's just rotten at his jobs. And the SNP have been in power too long with no opposition in this country, as far as I'm concerned. And they say power corrupts, and absolute power absolutely corrupts. And this is what's happening to Scotland.
I was talking about this in one of the videos a couple of weeks ago, right? See, when you were young, what's the first government you can remember? Can you remember pre-Thatcher?
No, I do remember things with pre-Thatcher. So, I know I need to stop doing that. I do remember things with pre-Thatcher, with like bins being emptied and like 3 days. I was very, very young. I think there was power cuts and all that. I think there was power cuts. But I was very much a child of Thatcher. I remember the school strikes. I remember the miners' strikes, obviously.
So you and I have got the both memories of politics. Sort of can remember that Labour government, but couldn't tell you who, it was Labour at the time. It was just, there was just shite going on in the country, right? And then, so that finished as we were probably primary school age, right? And then Thatcher came in. Then the Tories had it for a while. Then it switched to Labour for a while. Now we've had Tory again for a while. And I think what happens is it doesn't matter the colour of your rosette. Once a government's had power for a certain amount of time, people just get fed up with them. And I think that's what's happening now. The Tories have had, 10 years at it, whatever, in Westminster. This mob's had 17 years at it. See, if they didn't fight for independence, nobody would vote for them. That's it. There's no other reason you would possibly vote. Well, that's somebody's been saved. And I think that there's a certain logic to that. There's life cycle of a government, and when they come in at first, they're off. Remember when Blair came in at first? If the country did, whether you were a Tory or a Labour, the country took a lift at that, right? But then after a term, seeing they get into the second and third terms, everybody's like, they've not done anything. I think
a lot of the carry on was that Tony reneged. Again, absolute power reneged, that he would serve 2 terms and then get to Gordon. And then he passed it to Gordon when the tea was out. And I actually thought Gordon Brown was a decent man, but it was just the right guy at the right time. He got flung under the bus with Tony, which is again leading to when you're in power for so long. You'll know, I say anybody, vanity gets you. I mean, I could say a lot about Tony Blair. I think Tony Blair done some good stuff for this country, but I think he sent a lot of your young, to death.
Do you know, Sandy, it's peculiar. I was talking to somebody about this again today, and I've spoke to loads of people about it. You and I were obviously involved with Sons of Struth together. This thing is repeating. And I'll explain a couple of things to you. You and I didn't plan Sons of Struth. It just sort of happened, didn't it? Mm-hmm. This thing that I'm doing now wasn't planned. It just happened. I woke up one morning and thought, who's he? He's £11,000 phone bill, and started doing these things, right? Then, see when the Sons of Struth was a thing and people had information that they wanted to put out that maybe didn't have the maybe the daftness or the bravery, I'm not sure what, they would come to us and we'd put it out. This is happening again with us.
I think you made, sorry Craig, I think you made a good point. I think there's one of the earlier videos there when you say you learned a lesson there, and that to get a story out particularly, see what I find it's kind of hard to me, is it civil journalism?
Civil,
is that what they're calling it, about stuff if you're doing it on YouTube now? See, maybe if journalists weren't in the back pockets or their cohorts and political things or whatever, and investigative journalists.
It's even worse than that, right? And it's even more basic than that. I'm not going to get into names, right? Because the guy might be a nice guy and his newspaper might run some of your stories next week or next month, right? And if the guy wants to come back to me and run one of my stories, I'm not going to hold it against him, right? But I had somebody that had this story before Camilla and said they couldn't stand it up. Now, I'm like, you know me, I've got a bit of knowledge now about how the media works. I know fine well that story could get stood up. If I didn't know it could stood up, I wouldn't have took it to the media, because I know what they will and they will not accept, right? Camellia was doing a Google on me on a journalist industry, a media industry one. There was 435 hits on me that's on stories in published papers alone and like media websites. She went, Craig, that's nuts. What is it you done? Right? So kind of getting all the way around about it. And this guy, I am adamant, the reason that he didn't want to put his name to that story was I'd already put a video out. And it's like some people in the media, I'm not saying they look down their nose, but they see people that I'm doing as a separate thing, and they don't want to be drawn towards it. And they don't want to, well, you know, to him it was just like, that's that guy, that's that YouTuber that put that out, that's no worthy of my attention. And I think that's where the problem is. I'm not suggesting that it's folk in their pocket, and it could be things like that, it could be things like just having relationships. As I'm not talking about sex, I'm just talking about friends. You know, if you're a political, we spoke about it with the Rangers thing as well, with the PR there. If you're a journalist and you get on well with the guy that's a Rangers PR, you don't need to be a Rangers fan or anti-Celtic or whatever. You find it tougher to put a bad story in the paper about that guy if you get on with him. If you've been in a political journalism for a while and you've got relationships with journalists, kind of difficult.
But you see the biggest thing that journalism is based on is information. Because we both know you've obviously got the information. Yeah. Know what I mean? Yeah. And I mean, for all the times that I've rightly or wrongly been in the papers, there's been some things that it's just been like copy and pasting and regurgitating. I mean, the last time I was in the paper there, the story wasn't even about, the story was about me, but it was nothing really to do with me. It was about an incident I was involved with where I'd done my time, I'd done whatever, right? Simply get involved in something that I'd say I'd walk away from. Been out for over 5 years, living as good a life as I can just now. Being a good member of society, well, some people might be disagree with that, right? But try to be as good a father and good a friend and good a whatever, as much as things are new. And yet, something that I've done my time for, went to prison for, something was brought up as well that happened even longer ago, which I didn't even get convicted of. And it's just regurgitated. The story was about me. When these two guys who done the same thing I'd done, but didn't go to jail, they get mentioned once. And I went, oh, for God's sake, no, I mean, even the people who know me, or who used to criticise me in the past, or who didn't know me at the time, are saying, what was that all about?
Journalism's changed, but Sandy, 99% of people that are journalists now use Google as their best tool in the world. So if they get into Google, and they find 2 or 3 stories about you, they'll take the information for that. Whereas before Google, journalists had to get up off their arse and go and talk to people. Now they don't. They've got this big thing in the ether, right, which they could put anybody's name into and draw and go, well, there's 3 stories about that guy, so I'll take a wee bit of information featuring him when I'm doing this next story. And I think that, so there's changes in the media in terms of how it operates, but there's also big changes in the amount of money in the media because people don't buy newspapers anymore. So everything's gone more digital based. And if there's no the same money, there's people getting laid off every other week, every other month, rather. When I talk to journalists, I hear of somebody else that's made redundant. And the newspaper's running really, really threadbare. So your old-fashioned hack doesn't really exist anymore. I was shocked and stunned and surprised when that Camilla started phoning people up and chasing folk for leads, you know, and getting comments for...
No, I'm a wee bit confused about, right, and I'm maybe being a wee bit frivolous here, right, but is it Camilla or Camilla?
Camilla, sorry, it's just...
Because I've watched a few videos and I'm like...
I'm thinking, I don't know, I need to ask her when it's on the phone here, but...
It's a very regal name, that.
Very. And, you know, I was shocked and stunned at the effort she went to because, as I kept saying, the amount of information I've gave her, she watched one of my videos, you could transcribe it, copy-paste it, stick it out on the internet and get 50,000 hits straight away. No. How she got the information about the Met Police, I'll never know, right? Then it was, you know, she had comments from Douglas Ross, the boy Stephen, terrible, Kerr, and they loved them. She got feedback from Humza's people, and I'm like, that's what the world used to be like for every journalist.
But if it's again like anything else, if it's not against, see what you're saying about like the SNP and all that, it's activists. It's like a big gang. It's like a big gang, and they'll go about bullying people if you disagree with them. I mean, a lot of good people who voted no were branded traitors, I spoke to people I know demanding another referendum. No, why the comments I've heard, bearing in mind one of them's my mother, probably your mother, right? At least all the old bastards that swung the vote. Excuse my language, right? I don't know if you, excuse my language. They will all be dead now. And I'll be like, what a horrible, nasty thing to say about people who have lived and worked all their lives to make this country good.
I remember talking to my own son about it at the time, and I'll guarantee you, see whatever he'd have voted when he was at school, we voted totally different now. Because these kids are no kids anymore, they're grown up. So see the ones that were 16, 17 then, that are now 26, 27, 28 now. Their life experiences have changed. And they were manipulated at the schools. I know that through conversations with Ben. He was like 6 years at the time. And he came up with some things. I think, where did you get that? Knowing fine well it wouldn't be his mother, because I know how his mother's politics are. And, oh, it was my school teacher. Like, what? So these kids that were manipulated 10 years ago are now young adults. They've now got mortgages, they've now got jobs, they've now got another 10 years experience. So that's fine if you say, well, see all the Olgins, if you're that sick, they're dead now, they can't vote no. But see the young ones that voted yes, there's no guarantee that they would be voting the same as they did 10 years ago.
No, I think would be the greatest threat to actually, if there ever was a referendum, which was maybe once in a generation, once in a lifetime, right? Oh, but we left the EU, which I could never understand, going that. I could never understand, right, why the SNP wanted to break away from Westminster, right? Imperfect, whatever you want to say, and then go camp in hand to Europe, right? Right, so you want to take your power back and then get away to somebody mere distance who cares even less about you?
This is a bit that I can't understand. If you want out a union that takes lots of product off you, to get into a union that takes a lot less product off you. The UK is a bigger, as the rest of the UK is a bigger importer of our stuff from Scotland than the whole EU put together. And if you actually analysed it, now that's total power, right? You get the whole book. That's where we are probably devolution just now, right? So there's that a gap. So see if you went into the EU, you'd need to give some of that away. So I'm not saying that you would have more powers than you would, less powers than you had been in the EU, but the UK, it still doesn't make sense to me. And it's no true. And that's this cracker that I love, the fact, fallacy they throw up about how many countries have become independent from the UK and the Empire. And they go, there's 175 countries. Is that right? Is that right? And what you want, and they hate the Empire thing, right? So all these countries broke away from the Empire and the Commonwealth and the United Kingdom. And the first thing you want to do is get in bed with the EU. That isn't political, that's not financial. That is just a hatred of either the UK or England. It's as simple as that.
It's a federal superstate, or that's what the plan is. It's a French-German federal superstate.
Which you're not going to get into anyway. So, Sandy, you enjoyed your wee chat?
I have. I look forward to some of the comments that you'll probably get. Know what I mean? Because you know the crap that gets flung. Do you want to know something? Big man doesn't care. I don't care. I really don't care. Come on here and I'll speak my mind. I won't hide away. I won't hide behind any false names or false things. We've been through this, haven't we? So see for all the detractors out there. Hey.
Do you know what I think we should do? Right, we'll throw this one out. We'll see how it gets on, and then we'll do one that's a wee bit more happier. Next, and just see how it gets on. And I think I wouldn't mind just sitting in a camera once a week and just talking shite. Talking
shite. You know what I mean?
Folk might enjoy it.
They might try to keep it legal, right? Keep it legal and clean.
All right. Well, folks, listen, thanks very much for tuning into this. If you like it, give me the thumbs up as usual, and subscribe if you've not already done so. And the most important thing of all, as long as you're not one of the cult members, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.